Hi, and welcome to another episode of Sonic Odyssey. Before we begin today's discussion, please be sure to like, share, and subscribe. Subscribing is a good thing to do so you can stay up to date when I release a new video. And that way you'll never miss out on anything that Sonic Odyssey has to offer you. Also, if you're so inclined, please feel free to visit our Patreon page. We appreciate your patronage as it helps us to keep this project going. Sonic Odyssey is still in its infancy, with a lot of improvements from both its host and the channel itself to come over time, I'm sure. So before we begin today's discussion, let's get a little bit of a background. The trio of Bob Mould on guitars and vocals, Greg Norton on bass guitar and vocals, and Grant Hart on drums and vocals came together and formed in 1979 in St. Paul, Minneapolis as the band Hüsker. The early years of the band saw them performing primarily as a punk rock band, but this sound evolved dramatically over the years with their hardcore punk sound developing into a more melodic, not really mainstream, but a melodic punk sound. Something akin to The Clash meeting the Dead Kennedys. As early as their third release, Zen Arcade, the band clearly had stepped away from just hardcore punk to a more mixed sound, and then by the time they came around with their album, today's album of discussion, New Day Rising, the band clearly had brought this alternative punk sound, almost industrial alternative punk, to the forefront. And before we go any further, let's give a small listen to a sample from New Day Rising. The clip I just played was from the song Terms of Psychic Warfare, that while clearly a punk rock song also carries with it kind of an Irish ditty sound. It has a little bit of an Irish ditty vibe to it. Sound such as this was a drastic departure from their hardcore punk days. And as heard in the sample, each member of the band's sounds are very forward in the mix. The drums, the guitar, and the bass, just a simple trio, really comes forward, comes very direct at the listener. It's crisp sonic assault, and so maybe that's one of the terms of the psychic warfare, is to have it brings it as a direct assault onto the listener. The guitar work is, the bass guitar comes in at the beginning and has very up-tempo feeling to it, and the guitars come crashing in behind there with their strong distortion, and the vocals are punching. So it's really a creative style that matches the intent of the song's lyrics, which is appears to be looking at the stage in a breakup where both parties are struggling to get the other party out of their mind. As the lyrics state a little bit along in the song, It's sad, but the means, they just don't justify the ends. To be forever haunted by the ghosts of all your friends. Painful, yeah, that's the way you've chosen it to be. Come on, baby, can't you think of anyone besides me? So clearly the song is asking for a reprieve from the situation as it stands. Let's get a change. Can't you think of anyone besides me? The song New Day Rising, How to Skin a Cat, What You Drinkin', Plans I Make, all of these songs from New Day Rising harken back to the much more hardcore punk style days, whereas songs such as She's the Girl Who Lives on Heaven Hill, Terms of Psychic Warfare, and a couple of other tracks are much more in the melodic, again, not really mainstream, but trying to bridge that punk to accessibility gap. When New Day Rising was released in 1985, I was there, I was in on the action. I bought it probably within the first week of its release. I thought it was fantastic follow-up to Zen Arcade. I thought that it really brought their sound forward and in a new direction. And I can't even remember which side of the album I must have worn out first from all of my multiple playings of it before I eventually had to go around to getting a CD. Hüsker Du demands the listener's attention. They have strong sonic, solid melodies and crashing guitars, banging drums. It's punk and it's rock and it's a wonderful alternative fusion of those styles. New Day Rising's biggest hit, and one that was copied by at least the band Anthrax. I believe there was one or two other bands that have played Celebrated Summer on B-sides of singles or as bonus tracks on discs. It really is a far-reaching song. The song itself, Celebrated Summer, looks back to a time of innocence lost, looks back fondly but regretfully on the days that have gone by, on the days that have passed, and asks that poignant question, was this your celebrated summer? All in all, this is a great release from one of the most influential bands to break out of the hardcore punk scene into the alternative, hardcore, industrial, mainstream punk sound, at least as it stood in 1985. So I would recommend this album highly to anyone who is a fan of punk rock music in general. I mean, if you're a Clash fan, Dead Kennedys fan, even Black Flag, Hüsker Du definitely has something to offer. They have great tempos, strong sound, wonderful riffing, and very creative songwriting techniques. So thank you very much for joining us on this Sonic Odyssey, and I hope that we'll see you again soon with our next video. Until then, please have a great day, and don't forget to visit our Patreon page if you're so inclined.